faster forward? And how do you do it with grace in order to really achieve more success? People think, no, if I fail, I'm not achieving success, but it's actually reversed. And we're going to talk about that today. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. DJ, actually, before we even begin, we're not giving enough of a shout out to our sponsor,
That's right.
our main man, Damon at American Logistics and Centurion Trucking. In the show notes, everybody, you see that if you got any freight going west to east, they're your guys to do it. US, Canada, US. But also, if you're in Canada and you're an agent looking for a home where people talk about profit or people over profits, whoa, that almost reversed on me. People over profits, give Damon a call. He's looking to expand his network, and if you're not happy, maybe it'll be a great home for you. For today,
absolutely.
It's kind of a topic that, for me, anyways, DJ, puts a smile on my face, and for most people,
it's so funny you said that because I literally was gonna say I cannot believe I'm excited to talk about failing, but
I thought you were going to talk about smiling. I'm like, no, you're always smiling, no matter what we talk about.
It's so funny though, because literally, my life I feel like has been a misery of failure, but now that the whole mind shift of failing and failing forward and growing from failing, literally, like I love to talk about it now because it's like, okay, what new strategy or what new way can I almost like brain hack? It's like brain hacking.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of insane. So,
well, a buddy of mine, Derek Staples. Derek, if you're watching, kudos, brother. He put out a post yesterday. He says, when I fail, I don't learn because I want to do it 5 or 6 more times just to make sure. And it's actually pretty hilarious because typically people do. I see failure as okay, I got to go at it again from a different angle. And I'll use, and just because it's winter and I got my racing gear on, I'll use snowmobiles as an example, right? A couple of years ago, I put a really big track, like almost to the point where when the trails are hard, it vibrates and it's not fun to ride. But for the most part, it's a good ride and it's not obtrusive. But with those paddles I put on and with the setup I have on my sled, I can climb like super powder hills. I can climb almost 90-degree, like snow drifts, if you will. There's this one section north of a town called Shelburne where I live, where it is just like the wind comes blowing in and some of these things are 10, 15 feet high. Like there's no joke. There's years I've seen up That's here insane. Where the snow drift is like 5 feet from the electric lines, from the hydro lines. Right. And so one day I was riding, there was a buddy of mine, Gord, and my son and his son and a couple other people. And I just said, I'm just going to kind of climb it. And I found, of course I get up on top on the first one. I'm like, oh my God, I could do this. Like I'd never done it before because I didn't feel I had the setup. Right. So if we take this back to sales, some salespeople are afraid to fail because they feel they don't have the setup. So that's number one. Then I kept going and so I kept getting bigger hills, right? We go after bigger fish or bigger companies. I apologize for those shippers and that you're not fish or companies. I get it. But you understand the escalation here, right? And then all of a sudden one time I hit this hill and before I knew it, I was airborne. I went right over the handlebars and you got to remember, I got 5 sleds behind me doing 80, 90K. Like we're not going slow. And because I hit it at such force, my body just launched right over. I mean, I took out my windshield. I hit this snowbank. I fall like 6 feet to the trail, and I kind of skid for another 30 feet. When all the smoke or snow dust clears, I look up and I'm this far away from my buddy's ski. No joke. Like this is not a salesperson story. I was 5 inches away from his ski. And I said, Gord, what did that look like? He goes, dude, you disappeared in this mountain of snow. And it took us an hour and a half to dig my sled out. Like my sled went in like a missile and it just went over. Right? So the story and kind of the follow-up to that was the very next hill, I went up it again. And I mean, my windshield's broken, so it's like clattering in the wind. And I remember my son saying, Dad, like the very next hill you went up, I said, absolutely. I go, I just figured out a way not to do it. So I didn't, so I kind of hit it on an angle. What I did is I came too far in, right? So like if the hill's like this, I came too far direct as opposed to kind of cruising up and letting myself scale. I go, but as soon as I did it and as soon as I was airborne, I realized what I did. I said, so if I never do it again, by next year, I'll be terrified to do it. And I think, again, I can only go by me and what I've
I love
seen,
that.
but I think as salespeople, you know, we get hung up on or we get torn to shreds. I mean, I remember when I first started, there was some traffic managers that ripped me a new arsehole because I was calling them. And and here's the thing, I never once at that point in my life stopped and said, whoa, time out. Because now I do. Whoa, time out. Do you not have a sales force that sells your product? And if your sales force doesn't sell their, like, I get it. I caught you at an inopportune time. I don't think there's a single, I mean, I think we're really lucky when we make a phone call and the person says, yeah, I got, an extra 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, wow, I caught it. Like, it's like the skies open up and that ray
Yeah,
of
nobody's
sunshine
sitting
comes out.
there
It's like,
waiting for the phone to call to just talk to you.
yeah. No, I mean, they've been waiting for your call all day. Why haven't you called earlier,
I
right?
mean, I'm sure they.
But it's kind of like that. So it's that whole perspective of it, right?
I love.
And my son looked at
how
me
you.
and he said, Dad, that's pretty cool. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, well, like, it could have been a lot worse. But he goes, like, instead of just not doing it, you actually took the one piece that was the critical part that made it. And he didn't explain it in these words, but he says, like, you took the one piece that made you crash. And you said, okay, now I know not to do that. But, and then you go, and listen, I go over my handlebars 10 times a winter. Like, because I ride just like I sell, just like I work, just like my life. I'm on the edge because I truly believe, there was a post out on a LinkedIn the other day. I love country music and Kenny Chesney's Don't Blink. I don't know if you're a country music fan.
Yeah.
We never actually talked about that. Well, Don't Blink. He says, like, when your hourglass runs out of sand, you can't just flip it over and start again. And I believe that. And I know some people are like, oh, it's so Pollyanna and oh, Dan, but like it is.
It's
and there's nothing any more special about a Richard Branson, an Elon Musk, a Steve Jobs, any of and this is reality than us. There really isn't anything. It's an education, it's a process, and it's work. I saw a post from Elon Musk. He goes, people call me lucky. I work 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. I take so many risks. Like, I don't know if you've ever read some of the stuff on Elon, but after he sold PayPal and he started like Tesla and SpaceX and all that, he literally had $3 million left in his bank. And I know a lot of us are like, oh, only, but that was literally his payroll. And he wrote the check. His bank account was at like $2.27 from a multimillionaire. And that was the dedication he had. So you think of the amount of failures it took to get where, and he's still failing. And so are everyone else. And I know it's, DJ, I don't know if you see it the same way. I'd love to hear this from you. But earlier on in my career, when I looked at these people, like you hear about Tony Robbins living in his car and all that. I'm like, yeah, it's a great story, but you can say that because you're on stage making millions. But it's true. Like when I lost my company because of my ego, we had a $37 million company and I walked away with $10,000. And in a very short period of time, because of the lifestyle I was living, there was nothing. And it's fact. And some people might say, oh, but Dan, blah, 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 blah. It's fact.
Yeah.
And that's a fail I'll never experience again because I learned. And I truly believe that's what happens when we fail. If we don't learn, we will keep making the same mistake and getting the same result. And then, Einstein's theory of insanity.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly. And you hit on it so well. Good morning, Jeff.
Sorry. I was in the middle of babbling, brother. But Jeff says it too. He says, if you don't fail, you can't learn. Failure is success, but you don't realize it, but you will later, guarantee. That's actually a very good point. It's absolutely, we don't see it at the time of.
Never. But it's
unless we look for it.
But and the difference is, listen, failure is it can be either it could really destroy you and beat you up if you see it as a failure, or if you see it as a lesson or just
Hmm.
an opportunity. Like you said, you hit it on the head. And I think, I don't know if it was Einstein or who they asked about it, but he said, well, you failed 1,000 times. No, I just found 999 ways not to do
So it
it.
was actually
And
10,000, and it was
whatever.
Edison creating the light bulb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so,
Hmm.
same thing. And exactly what you said. You found a way not to do it. So that's why you
Hmm.
tried again. And
Hmm.
that's really what it takes. I mean, if we
Hmm.
can look at our shortcomings, we won't even call them failures. If we can look at our losses and just find the silver lining, that's, we are more connected than you'll ever think or you will ever know, my friend. But I, I,
Oh, I
I
believe it.
believe, I believe strongly the same thing there.
Hmm.
It's
Here's the
funny.
thing: is we learn into who we want to be and who
Yeah.
we need to become. Like,
Yeah.
when I first started in the business, I had nowhere near the talent, near the skill, near the
Yes.
understanding, near the
Absolutely.
education to do millions in gross profit. Never,
Yeah.
never, never, never. And even 10 years into my career, I still didn't. Did I know? Did I have the education? Did I have the knowledge to do 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 a month? Yes. But we grow into it. And
Yes.
here's the thing is, here's my spade. When I call a spade, I don't believe it will take a salesperson 10 years to get where it is. It's the amount of dedication. We look at some of the people in
Yes.
our inner circle, some of the students that are in our programs, and I watch them scale their career by decades
Yeah.
in quarters. And
Absolutely.
to me, that's the most beautiful thing, because that idea failed. And here's the thing: don't get me wrong. The next hill I went up after my crash, I was scared shitless. Like, I almost didn't do it, DJ. This isn't I got some friggin' superpower. Like, I shit my pants a lot. Like, and for lack of a better term, and I'm sorry to put it like that, but I do. Like, even recently, and I think here's kind of my philosophy on it, and tell me if this resonates with you.
Mhm.
When we don't do something, it becomes a lot scarier. So for all you
Absolutely.
salespeople out there that get a bunch of business and then I call it coasting. Some of you might call it, well, no, I'm serving my customers. I'm serving my customers. When you really focus on it, you have 2, 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day to make sales calls. You just choose not to. You choose to do other things
Yeah.
that bring that dopamine and serotonin drip up, as opposed to the fear of making sales calls. But what
Correct.
happens is, after a couple of months of not making sales calls, it is so hard to make sales calls. And here's what happened to me. Again, I can only share personal experiences, but I found I'd be doing 20 grand a week, and I'd be coasting. I'm like, wow, I'm making good money. It's okay. And then all of a sudden I'd lose a customer. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
now I got to start selling, because
Yeah.
my days were filled with golfing or hanging, talking to other people in the office while my ops team did all the work. And like, call a spade a spade. This is what I did. And then all of a sudden I had to start selling. And it's like, in my mind, I'm this really good salesperson, right? And it's no ego. I love selling. Like, I do in my heart and soul. I love selling.
I
But
do
it's like I
too.
pick up the phone and I'm going, yeah, and I'm stuttering and I'm like, and I hang up the phone. And there was one point in my career I go, have I like literally lost it? Like I suck at this. Like, I suck at it. I actually got fired, and I've never
Wow.
in my life have I been fired from a job. I got fired on my birthday from a company. And I'm sure I told you the story. I
Yeah.
thought I was getting a cake. They called me into the office. I was working remotely, and they called me into the office on my birthday. And I said, before I left, I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to get a cake today. They called me in. They've never called me into the office. I'm going to get a cake. And I walked in the office and I got my papers. That was my birthday present. And I was like, okay. But it was like, I realized after, because obviously when I got fired, it was all the company's fault. It had nothing to do with me, DJ. And it was like, afterwards you stop and you
You
think,
start to think, yeah.
and it's, oh my gosh, like, I made that one sales call, I got turned down, and I screwed the pooch for the rest of the day. Or you know what I mean? Like, has anything like that ever happened to you, or am I just an anomaly?
No, 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 absolutely.
Okay, thank the Lord, because you're not saying anything and you're not jumping in here. So I'm thinking, all right, did he just totally tune out here on
No,
me?
no, I was letting you go. No, I agree absolutely. And talking about dedication and hard workers, Ryan right there. Prospecting is a career-long task, not only when you climb to the top. Yeah, it's the only way to keep your funnel going, guys. You want to talk about panic? I mean, Dan, again, it's I'm listening to you, and it's just like you're replaying my life in a way, almost. So I think that's where I was getting lost. But yeah, it's the
Okay, well,
same
that
thing.
makes me feel better because I'm sitting there thinking, am I just like this doorknob that I
No,
only
no,
feel
no,
this?
man,
Okay, good,
no,
good,
no,
good.
absolutely. It's you know, I think it's one of those things we fall into. That's just a human behavior, though. Not even sales. I mean, anything in life. Once we reach a certain level of comfort, we kind of let off the gas, and
Yeah.
it's funny you say it's funny we're even talking about this, and I didn't mention this prior to the show, but Mark Cuban, a quote that he says all the time that I shared actually on this day came up as my memory. I don't know when I shared it, but it was work like there's somebody else working 24 hours to take it from you. And that's
Mhm. You know,
and I was like,
that's one of
wow.
the best segues into the solutions for failing. So here's what I came up with, how my brain started processing this, because up until this point, every call that was a no was a failure.
Mm,
And as a salesperson, you get 300 failures a week and no yeses for 3 weeks in a row, which is, it happens.
that's a rough
Um,
week. Yeah.
it's a rough week. It's a rough month.
Yeah.
And you really start questioning who you are, what you're doing.
Yeah. Are you doing the
It,
right thing? This is, yeah.
thank you. So what I started looking at was this, and my perspective is now this: I either move forward or I learn. And in order to do that, there's a couple of things we need. One is we go right back to that client profile. You know, I make a sales call now, regardless of what it is, whether I'm calling companies for inception, speaking to salespeople for inception, or calling for freight to grow, help them grow their business, help them achieve their goals. Whatever it is, there's a client profile I focus on, and there's a goal.
Yeah.
With those two in hand, I either learn or I move forward. So what do I mean by learn? My first thing is, you know, you call a prospect and you know, hey, listen, I want to understand, I want to learn. This is what my mission. This is my client, my ideal client profile. Does this resonate with you? I'm happy with my present carriers. Okay, so here's your learning opportunity, because I believe if asked properly, most people want to share why they're so good, right? If you think about it. So
Yeah.
you're talking to a traffic manager who's selected a supplier who says, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm good. My question to them is, I love this. And I'm always looking to educate myself. Can you please share with me what makes your supplier so good? You don't even want to hear a word I have to say.
Bam.
And I stop. And to me, that has given me some serious gold nuggets in my career, because he'll say something and I'm like, damn, I'm not implementing that in my business. What if I were? And then I start talking to my ops and I'm like, okay, if we were to implement this, what would it look like? And you start, and okay, implement it with two customers, let's see what happens. And then they like it. And then you put it across the board. But there's two folds there. I've just learned, and I could possibly gain one of the best gold nuggets ever to move my sales forward. Number two,
Absolutely.
if they say yes, let's have a conversation, I move forward. So again, I either learn or I move forward. Those are the only two things. And even if somebody says no, not like, I mean, I'm on a big CEO kick right now, and I am emailing and calling a bunch of CEOs. They're like, no, I'm not interested. I'm like, okay, fully understandable. If you don't mind, for market research, I'd love to know why you're not interested. I had one. So as you know, the mission of the course is to
Yeah.
to help
Turns out.
salespeople generate $1 million GP. I
Yes,
had
sir.
one CEO come back to me and he goes, I've got 9 salespeople. They're all doing over $1 million. I'm like, oh my God,
That's
way to
awesome.
go. Like, that is awesome. Like, you very rarely see 9 Clydesdales. There's always 2 or 3 Clydesdales pulling like 7 donkeys. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But you very, very rarely, I shouldn't say never because I just saw it, but you very rarely. Now, if that's the case and that's the truth, I'm ecstatic for this
That's
guy.
all.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, dude, we got to get on a phone call. I got to know what you're doing. And he
Yeah.
hasn't gotten back to me. And I didn't use the word dude, but he hasn't gotten back to me. And I'm like, okay, no problem. But it's like, that to me is not a failure. That to me is oh my God, you guys are awesome. But
Yeah.
that
What?
strategy of learn or move forward. because no matter what prospect says no, as long as you know this is my ideal person I'm after, it's never a failure. Never.
Yeah.
Because, and even if they say, you know what, I don't want to get into that, you're like, okay, you know what, I apologize. I'm ecstatic. And I would love my customers to have that same conversation when the next salesperson calls them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not looking for your secret sauce, but damn, I'd love to know what they do so well that, I mean, you're not even willing to hear what I have to say, or we're not even willing to invest 5 minutes. And you know what? A lot of the times, DJ, it wasn't necessarily what the carrier did well, like their supplier. Most of the time, the person I was speaking to goes, you know, Dan, I get 15 of these calls a day,
Mm.
and it's all useless. And, you know, I just feel like it wastes my time. And now they're opening up. And
Yeah.
now is where you 8 Mile it and you
Yeah.
go, you know what? I agree. Like, I'm inbound calling you at a very inappropriate time. You got a million different things to do. I totally get it. Here's some of the things we've been able to solve for our customers. And all it will take was a 3 to 7 minute. I never use 5 or 10, 3 to 7 minute call. Is there a time we can schedule a call? Because if you're having these frustrations, I'd like to see if any of our solutions can help you overcome that. But most importantly, Mr. Customer, I want you to achieve your goals. My mission is to help you achieve your goals. Now I've had an opportunity to deliver the nucleus of my client profile, but I've delivered it in a non-sales way. Does that make sense?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
see, and those
Absolutely.
calls are the ones that just take off. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, now you're selling without actually selling. That makes sense.
You're just trying to have a conversation and really trying to, when you and that's the thing. So,
That's
and why
powerful,
you're able,
Gary.
and it is powerful, Gary. You're right, and that's the thing though with what you're saying, and guys, catch what he's saying there. What he's talking about there is it's just the mind shift in his head that okay, where we, I mean. In the beginning, I'm sure you did it, Dan. Everybody does. You get that no, and it's okay. Click. It's like, oh my god! It's like,
It's
oh my god! Thank
literally
God.
before the
No,
O
I didn't
comes
get
out of the
yelled at
mouth.
least for something. And it's like, but instead of doing that and not learning anything from it, he's taking that opportunity and forcing his way to learn something. And either they're going to just shoot him down and not give him feedback, or they're going to give him some kind of feedback. And then in that feedback is where we learn. But
Mhm.
if we're not asking for it, here,
You
Ray
know, the
Kroc,
biggest thing, DJ, is breathe. Breathe.
yes,
As
breathe.
a salesperson, just breathe. You know, we as salespeople,
Yes,
I don't think we like silence. How
no,
many times on sales calls now I say a point and I stop?
yeah,
And that's what you hear, silence. Because it's like anything. If you do sports, your breathing controls your output.
yep.
And as salespeople, I think we hold our breath. It's like, hey, do you have a moment to talk? You're like, please say yes,
Oh
please say
no,
yes, please say yes. Jeff brings up a very valid point,
yeah,
and Jeff, this is exactly it. But how do they know how good you are until they hear you out? Even more importantly, until they see you in action. Because
yes.
Jeff, you and I both know there's a lot of people there that talk a lot
Yeah,
of
they're good.
shit and then
Yeah,
can't
good
back it
talkers,
up,
but they can't.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
How could you be much better than the incumbent? But you could be much better than the old saying: "If it ain't broken, why fix it?" You have the opportunity to blow their mind. 100%. I also believe if it ain't broke, break it and make it better. And if
ah,
you're willing to break it and make it better, I think as an individual, we scale in life. But
yeah,
you're right. So many people are like, well, my freight's working. And here's the thing is it's working, but is it when you close your eyes? And I've asked this to thousands, tens of thousands of traffic managers and customers. I understand it's working, but when you close your eyes, is it ideal?
mm,
And listen, my friends, I'm not saying that one question is going to break the mold and you're going to, experience this, oh my God, and everybody's going to give you business. But I'll tell you one thing, it gets people
it's
thinking.
going to get you answers. It's going to get you
Well,
at least.
but it might not even, DJ. That's the thing. They might say yes, but when you hang up, they're going to think. They're really going to think because what's happening now, the okay, right? Like think about it like this.
Yeah,
You were talking about video games.
yeah.
Being okay at a video game, or did you want to be like fucking awesome?
Oh yeah,
At sports, are
absolutely.
you okay at a sport or do you want to get better? You know,
Yeah.
at your career, are you okay or you want to get better? At reading or writing or whatever it is, are you okay or do you want to get better? And if you ask somebody, you know, if you close your eyes, business, let's take business. So everyone watching and listening, if you
Yeah.
were to close your eyes and picture your perfect business, is it where you are right now? And I think that's a very powerful question. I'm not saying you're not satisfied. I'm not saying you're not doing well, but is it where you like we are doing well in our company, but is
Yeah.
it where I want to be? Is it my perfect business? No. My like part of my perfect business, and I know this sounds crazy, is like taking the entire month of February off to go snowmobiling because that's part of my business, but that's not where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand that, and I'm okay with it. I get a week this year. I didn't get a week last year. I'm like, okay, I'm improving. I'm
Yeah.
gaining. I'm failing faster because I'm able to do this. And
Yep.
to me, it's just that question. Like if you were to close your eyes, is this your perfect business? Is this perfect? Like your entire supply chain, is it perfect? Is it exactly the way you want to run? And I'm not like, and obviously, guys, like when we're talking about this now, it's like, you know, COVID and friction did it, all of that out of the equation. And I know it's tough, but all of it out of the equation. There's parts of their supply, not even their supply chain, their department that
Yeah.
they're not happy with.
Oh
But
yeah.
as Jeff said, they're okay. Like it's not broke, meaning
Yeah.
it's working.
It's
But
still
is it
working.
at a
Yeah. Is it
level?
working? Yeah. Is it giving you the output that you really want? Is
Yeah,
the
Jeff says boom. I love Jeff's boom.
uh,
Ryan
I do
says
too.
learning
Yeah.
about pattern interruptions and learning to stop filling the air and using ums. Exactly. You know,
Sir.
it's um yeah,
Um.
I'm just
Um.
kidding, but yeah, it's
Yeah.
you know, like these are really great ways to fail to success. And you know, I've often done something. um you'll often in sales calls and stuff, you'll see me writing a lot, right? Like I take copious notes during sales, and DJ, in some of our
Yeah.
calls you've seen that.
Oh yeah.
But what I do is I do something that and I'll draw it out here real quick for everyone, because I think for those of you listening on the podcast, this I'm taking a piece of paper here, and I know I'm kind of I'm taking a piece of paper and I'm literally cutting it into 6 sections, right? So I take a piece of paper like this, and that's what I do, right? So that piece of paper, I write down the question I asked. Okay. So sorry, I ask a question, I write down the customer's answer or rebuttal, and then I put my answer or rebuttal back. So, okay, you know, would you like to, you know, can we have a conversation? No, I'm not interested. Okay, you know, I'm really interested in hearing about what it is this supplier does so well that you're not even willing to hear me out. So I write those two down. And then you know what happens when I get off the call at the end of the day? I spend about half an hour to 45 minutes and I write a better question than the one I asked. Because if it didn't get me the answers I want to try something new. So, and that's what I mean by
Yeah.
incremental successes. You know,
Absolutely.
the same question hits 7 people out of 20. But what if you can reword that question and hit 15 out of 20? No more work, double the results. This is the thing that keeps me up at night. Is how do I help salespeople not do any more work, but double and triple their results? Like this is part of the, you know,
Exactly.
DJ, you and I have talked numerous times about you know, resanitizing your pipeline, you know,
Yeah.
plugging the leaks in your pipeline, doing sales and pipeline audibles, like all of these things. All of these strategies are meant not for us to work 15, 16, 17 hours a day. I've done that. You get sick, you get pneumonia, you end up in the hospital, you live a shitty life. You really do. You know, I
Yeah.
was having a conversation with some new students of Inception last night, and they said, like, we have a child. They're a husband wife sales team, and I think it's friggin' cool. Like, it's awesome. And
That
like,
is
we have a
awesome.
baby, and you know what? We want to have a life where we can go to the recitals. We can, and they're like, we are so buried in this industry. We love the industry,
Love it.
but we're buried.
Love
And
it.
I'm like, that is that is the everything we want to hear, because
Yes.
you have to construct your career in your life. You know, you have children, you have young children.
Yes, sir.
You could easily allow this industry to bury you for 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
easily. You
Yeah.
know, you when you did your resale,
I did in the beginning. Oh my gosh, man.
right? And you think about it for a second. It's like, holy crap. Like, you know, I can't tell you how many things I missed from my
Oh
kids
yeah.
in the beginning of my career. Like,
Yeah.
you know, my wife and I calling each other because I'm at work late, she's at work late, and it's like, you know, you got 5 minutes to get to the daycare center. And who's going to be there first? And, you know, and you're calling and it's just
Yeah.
like, it's crazy that we don't set like, you know, you build a house, first thing you do is dig a hole, and then you pour your foundation to put the house on. If you just walked up to a place and you started throwing deck blocks down to build a house on, it's nobody would do that. You're not even thinking of
Yeah.
that. But what do? As a salesperson, we jump into the sales seat and we just, okay, I listen to some guy call. Who knows if he's friggin' doing it right? And you're like, okay, and you're just like, and it's like this, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's insane. And
It
then
is
as we
insane.
grow in our business and as we develop, it's like, sure, let's just bring in anyone that's willing to give me $1. If you're willing to give me a
Yeah.
dollar, man, I'll do business with you.
Well,
And it's like,
and I
that's
will tell,
insane.
and I'm so glad you brought that up. And I know we're about to get over time here, so we'll wrap it up quick. But you touched on something, failing fast, and I think we even started with failing fast. Guys, here's the biggest. Anybody new to the industry, anybody new out there, especially if the leadership team is just wanting you to land customers or land put a load on the board. I've seen so many times. The failing fast should be your mentality, especially if you're landing clients, you're moving loads, but your margins are crap and you're just moving. Like, I've seen so many agents get stuck just with busy work, not quality but busy.
Mhm.
And that's a huge failure because they're so afraid to cold call or find any more. They were just lucky and feeling so blessed that they had somebody to talk to, that they're just so busy, not and they didn't have enough time to build a book, but they weren't building a book either. So they're literally killing themselves by not failing fast enough. Figure out when you have something like that, and you got to let it go faster. Let it go and go to the
Mhm.
next. Not
And
everybody
test.
tests.
You make 5
Yeah,
phone calls and that intro doesn't work. Try a new intro.
yeah,
What's the worst that's going to happen? You get the same result. You're most likely get a better result.
yeah,
I'll add one thing: don't get complacent. You know,
yes,
if things are working, I still test to see if they work better, and that's how you do more with less. You know,
yeah,
again,
yeah,
it's not about, I need to get more business. Okay, I'm going to work an extra 7 hours a day. It's not what it's about. That's a great way to ruin your health, ruin your life, ruin your career, have no life. You know,
yeah.
like when I was single, it was like all I did. I was at the office at 6:30, 7 o'clock in
Work,
the morning.
work,
I'd leave
work,
at 7
work.
o'clock at night. I had no life. I'd come home. I'd sit on the couch. I'd watch CSI Miami and eat Twinkies. Like, that's no life. I'm sorry. It's no, like, I'm doing great. I'm able to buy my first home at 18. I'm able to buy a truck, but I was miserable. It was
Yeah.
work. My life revolved around work. And that's not what life is about. Life
Mm-mm.
is about living it to the fullest. Life is about enjoying, have that joy, that energy, that vitality in you.
And
And it doesn't
just like
mean
you
you
said,
need to
it's
work
about living. We can live the same life as those guys you named. There's no difference.
1000%.
They're
We all
they're
have the
human
same
just
amount of
like us.
friggin' time in a day.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
We all
it's
got the same
it's
time.
just, yeah, it's that fail. Like, don't be afraid to fail, and but learn from it. Like, if you just keep banging
Yes.
your head against the wall and don't
Yeah.
understand it, maybe you should put a helmet on. Different story. But it, like, sorry, can't believe I just said that out loud. You know what I mean, though.
Yeah,
It's like take those, like, why? What was that turning point
yeah,
to be, quote unquote, the failure? What was the
yeah,
turning point? You know, Andrea Waltz and Richard Fenton and Go for No, they like exponentially fail to get success, because the reality is, and they say it like so precise, you have to get through no to get to yes. Like, how many of us as sales reps have made a
yes.
phone call and said, "Hey, I'm the ultimate I'm the ultimate logistic guy," and they're like, "Oh my god, I've been waiting for you. Here's the business. Here's all my business." It never happened. You have to get through
I
those
don't think I've ever
incremental
heard that.
no's. You know, just like you call your spouse, you call your significant other on the way home from work one day, and you're like, "Hey, I feel like pizza." And like, "Nah, what about those awesome sushi rolls?" Oh my god, yeah, the sushi rolls. You just got sold, mofo. You got sold. You wanted pizza, and your spouse sold you on sushi. Someone's always being sold. You're being sold on a no, or they're being sold on a let's move forward.
Yeah, period.
Boom.
That's
My
it.
man
Boom.
is
Yeah,
that.
where's the boom,
Boom.
Jeff? Boom. Drop it.
That's it.
That's it.
What's the quote, DJ?
Yeah, I do, and so I am going to my man Ray Kroc because I think failing fast and failing to get to what you want is it was kind of what he, in the end what he really learned. But he had another quote from the movie, but I'm pulling this one because I love when he starts the movie this way. If you haven't seen it, it's called The Founder. Ray Kroc. It's about him. Watch it. It's amazing. Also, like us and subscribe down here. But it's now I know what you're thinking. How the heck does a 52-year-old over the hill milkshake machine salesman build a fast food empire with 1,600 restaurants in 50 states, 5 foreign countries, with annual revenue of the neighborhood of $700 million? Obviously, it's way more than that now, but this was his quote back then. One word: persistence, guys. Persistence. We
Mm.
can keep failing as long as we stick to it. We have to stick to it. Fail fast, stay persistent. You'll get what you want.